And thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. We are now in Hebrews chapter 13. Yesterday, we talked about going to the Lord with a holy fear and awe, finishing out Hebrews chapter 12 and kind of continuing that thought that the Lord continues to discipline those he loves and how he's given us opportunities and he's given us a clear law, a covenant to follow, and how we need to be obedient to him, and how there's going to be consequences if we don't. Now, what should our lives look like? What should we focus on? And I love Hebrews chapter 13 because it gives us some instructions on how we should conduct our lives and how we should view other people. Let's dive into the first three verses of Hebrews chapter 13. Keep on loving each other as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. I love this verse because it gives us some practical things of how we should view other people, of how we should care for other people, and how we should consider others higher than ourselves. That's what God has called us to do. I know that with our selfish nature, our pride, our preference can think about me, 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 me. But what the Lord is commanding us to do is to look at others, view others in a higher light than ourselves. We should be uh, caring for them, showing hospitality. God's given us opportunities to do so. And I go back to the verse, the parable of the talents, when Jesus says in this parable that when you are faithful with little, you will be faithful with much. And so, what we have to continue to do is not to make excuses from the things that we don't do because we don't have. No, we be faithful with the things that God's given us, and God will continue to give you more. We have to be good stewards of the resources that God has entrusted to us, and we need to use them not to build the kingdom for ourselves, a kingdom of ourselves, but to build and to encourage and to care for other people. Let's continue on in verse 3. Remember those in prison as if you were there yourself. Remember also those being mistreated as if you felt their pain in your own body. And that just is commanding us, encouraging us to show compassion, to have empathy on others, to those who are being mistreated. I recognize and understand that, some people that are having consequences, that are in prison, that are in situations that are lesser than. Some of them are there because of their own doing, because of their own choices. But one thing that we have to understand is this: we are one choice, one compromise away from potentially being in a similar situation that they are in. So sometimes we can look at other people that are in a situation where, like, I can't believe they're in that situation again from their own doing. And we can easily, kind of roll our eyes at people that are in situations like this. And what the author, God is telling us to do is we need to look at it in the situation, remember those who are there, recognizing, empathizing with them, going to them, because what if they don't have a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ? What if God is calling you to do those things? What if God is calling you to partner and to be part of a prison ministry, to support chaplains who are going into those areas and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ? That's what God's called us to. That's what he's commanding us to. We can't have this out of sight, out of mind. We can't just be so focused on ourselves. You see, God has given us this opportunity, this grace, this love, the forgiveness, blessings, not to build ourselves up, but to be a blessing to others, to love our brothers and sisters, to recognize where people are at, to remember those who are in prison, remember those who are homeless, remember those who are orphans, remember those who are widows, to take care of them. That's what God has called us to do. So who in your life do you need to show a little bit more compassion and empathy for? Maybe you need to get connected and involved in some ministry to put yourself out there into communities that you are now showing the love of Jesus Christ that are outside of your realm. I want to encourage you to do that because that's what God has called us to. You look at the life and ministry of Jesus, and Jesus was there for the marginalized. Jesus was there for the outcast. He didn't go to the religious synagogues of those who were prestigious and had abundance of material wealth. He did that to show them to say, you need to lessen of those things and give and to be available for those who are lesser than. That's what God's called us to. And so as we receive the Lord's discipline, as we are obedient to his word, we need to follow through with our actions. Not just feel good, not just a well, I will pray for them. See, it requires action. So what can you do today to be the hands and feet of Jesus to those who are potentially lesser than, who are in a really tough situation, whether it's their own doing or someone else's doing? God's given you an opportunity to do something about it, to share the love of Jesus with them. So choose to do that today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in as we are diving now into Hebrews chapter 13. We'll continue on after the worship Wednesday. And then when we get back on Thursday, we'll get back into some of these practical things that God has called us to live out our lives, to be his hands and feet. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in today. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.